What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle, and in this video we're going to go over the best builds that I can think of for Kingdoms. A lot of these work in Confessions, and the reason I'm actually making this video is because I've had a couple videos on good hero builds specifically before, not in teams, right? Just individual hero builds if you don't know where to go with someone. With Kingdoms coming out, gotten multiple requests to redo that style of video, and that's what this is. So these are the best kingdom paths and setups. Some of them a lot of them can just be Wanderer, especially like the skill sets, but when you get, your ends upgraded and you can buy paths with, cheaper cost, hopefully like the 18 gold, 16 gold, whatever it is, then you can shoot for something like this. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, let your thoughts be known in the comments below, especially if you have a different idea. It's okay to have different ideas. A lot of people get that twisted in this game. It's okay to have different opinions. Okay? These are my opinions. And so, I think these are good. Of course, your mileage may vary, but I think for most players, if they follow this relatively closely, they should do okay. Just fine. Other thing too, check out the box below for all the cool links to join the community and support the channel. Beautiful, thank you. Starting off with Petey, we're gonna go through everyone except Bounty Hunter, because I don't want to jump over to Confession or Kingdoms to set his ass up. So, Alchemist. A lot of people think Alchemist is dead. It's not. This, Plague Grenade has a 1-turn cooldown. Yeah, it's not the greatest. Yeah, Alchemist has 22 HP in a mode where enemies get progressively stronger and fatigue exists. So it may actually not seem good to run Alchemist, but the reason Alchemist is still pretty handy is the stun resist, the blight resist, and the penetration. So outside of like the mini bosses and whatnot, or whatever has like extra blight res, like Rock Claws I think are at 50, and everything else is like 30 or 50 for the Beastmen. 33% penetration turns that into a 17% resist chance. Still fine, still really good. So that means is you can still blight these dudes, especially if you're just letting her sit there on defense. Something else of note is that even though Plague Grenade has a 1-turn cooldown, doesn't mean that it still doesn't do some pretty good freaking damage, and it's got a 15% crit rate. So yeah, you can still use Alchemist. I like putting in Mag Rain just because it can help pull the Huntsman up front, so they stop, chopping down your backline. And Burn is a relatively low resist on the enemies. However, Ounce of Prevention gets pretty good in Kingdoms because Escalation, unlike, Ordainment. God, I had to think about that, yeah. So instead of Ordainment, we have Escalation, and Ordainment in Confessions gives enemies a bonus 10% dot res penetration, and that's one of the things that hurts Ounce of Prevention the most, is if you master it, that 10% gets cut off, and if you try and use it without it, you have bonus 5% resist. That is not worth spending a turn. It is not worth spending a mastery. In Kingdoms, you can get away with it, so Ounce is actually pretty good. Some other stuff you can use, but also I want to show off, because I finally started using loadouts to show examples. Surgeon. Alchemist does okay. Like I've cleared the game with Alchemist. I've beaten it on Blood Moon with Alchemist. Surgeon is also very, very, very good. And I have to change my path. I think I didn't save it correctly, but anyway. The reason Surgeon is good, bonus HP. In a mode where having a lot of HP is relatively helpful. Incision, really good on-hit damage. A lot of bleed. Bleed is a very good damage over time type against Beastmen. Blinding Gas. Can blind 2 different targets, and maybe they'll miss their big enrage attack. Really cool to have. We still have the heals. Both Plague Doctors have this. So IS is always really good, and Mastery gets rid of negative tokens, which is good. Like those weakens. Battlefield Medicine, worth actually mastering because you cleanse dot off 2 people, and that's very efficient with how much comes out in those fights. Cause of Death, actually not bad. It goes through the Berserk damage immunity. Because it's not on-hit damage, it's just calculating damage that's already there, and it just turns that into instant damage. So, Cause of Death is actually pretty sick. They stick a couple, whatevers. The Beastmen outside of Rockclaw don't have death armor, so like you can just crit an incision, and get all that extra bleed, and the next turn just COD, and that's it. So there's some really cool stuff here, especially if you're on other damage over time characters. Yeah, so there's other stuff you can slot in and run. Dissa, I'm not too big of a fan of, but the rest of it has a place. Next, Grave Robber. I'm picking Deadeye here. Venom Drop doesn't feel too good against Beastmen. Nightsworn, you kind of need to really build a team. They don't need to build like a full dance team to accommodate it, but Deadeye is just much easier, plug and play, drop it in, and it just does whatever it wants. So with Deadeye, you got a little bit of reach damage, flashing to cleave the back, picks of the face in case we find ourselves stuck and we have to hit rank 1, I mean, you could use Glint in the Dark, but there's no reason to have execution really against them. So at least pick to the face gets rid of potential block and all that. So it's whichever you want. Like pick's good, Glint's good, but I prefer pick in this situation. Absinthe. Having self heals and dodge is really good because those dudes hit really dang hard. Other nice part about Absinthe on Deadeye is she gets bonus crit. If you want to pop it early just for the dodge and the bonus crit, then that's cool too. And finally, your fist slot is really flexible, but I just picked Shadow Fade in case like Rockclaw, hits the party and she goes flying to the front. Then at least you have a way out of there if you want to use that. So again, you can run Wanderer, you can run anything, but I think Deadeye is probably the most consistent in terms of performance. Dismiss. There are 2 for Dismiss. You can actually run pretty much all of it. Rogue's the only one that's kind of questionable. Even Wanderer's pretty good. But I think Yellow Hand is kind of like slightly better Wanderer. And I'll talk about that. So, Sharp Shot, just have damage. With Pistol Shot, no stun, kind of sad. Grape Shot Blast, hit the back too. Damage. Double Tap, just to help, like if you have a weakened token on yourself, or if they have like a block, you can, mitigate those tokens. Also, upgraded Second Shot. Combos. Combo really good against Beastmen. It's good in general, but like the Beastmen, you really, 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 really want a combo. I've never seen myself using combo so much as I do in King. Take Aim just for the bonus crit. And it's actually nice for the blind removal because some of the regions you go through, like if you end up on a siege later on, the flame drains really fast. So you're going to hit a siege at like 15 flame or oftentimes 0. And 0 flame or low flame in Kingdoms blinds you. So at least you have something to help deal with that. And then Tracking Shot just because they don't get dodge, but it hits everything with combo. So if they have their turn, and they're Berserk where they don't take on-hit damage, and they happen to be slow enough for you to just open up with like Tracking Shot, and then someone behind you in speed order, Crusader with Stunning Blow, bops them, and then they're stunned, and there goes the Berserk turn. So Tracking Shot, just really good instant combo. Another one is... Wait, I picked the wrong one. There we go. Yeah. The other one is Yellow Hand. So Bleed is good because this helps deal with all the weakened tokens that get thrown at you by the Huntsman or the random Death Door because they hit very hard. You get stun on Pistol Shot, which is also good. Take aim, just for some crit and the blind and stuff like that, but this is a flexible spot. Duelist Advance, also flexible spot. I don't like Duelist Advance in I don't like Riposte in Kingdoms in general. It's never bad, but a lot of times you're going to find yourself riposting into Berserk turns, and so your damage is wasted. However, Duelist Advance, or not Duelist, but Riposte on this path inflicts bleed. So at least even if you hit them for 0, you can sneak some bleed in there and do some damage. Final one, Tracking Shot, for the same reason. Stuff you could also alternate is you could put in Double Cross, because block is really nice to have, and if you vulnerable the Beastmen, when they're Berserk, they still take damage, because additive property, so they take 50% of the normal hit, which is, you know, cool. That might help you kill something. Very nice. Otherwise, Robbery against Rock Claws isn't terrible, because they like to bleed, but they don't generate a lot of tokens that you have to get rid of. They just generate strength, and then sometimes Rock Claws have block. So Robbery's not really needed too much. I think this is pretty good here. Or maybe Double Cross. So those are two different options if you want to run them. Man at Arms going Wanderer. If you're doing Confessions, you probably want Retribution. If you are doing Kingdoms, however, Bellow lowers their speed, easier to bully them in subsequent turns, hits the entire enemy party, gets rid of Riposte on those Tribe Walkers. Man at Arms also has access to 2 different stuns with combo, which is better than Bulwark. Even though Bulwark's a good path, it's just the fact that with the amount of attacks coming out and the Riposte and stuff like that, you may not get up to 2 or 3, you know, block tokens to inflict a stun. Although Hold the Line, you might be able to pull it off, honestly, because it's only 2 to inflict stun. You don't need the Res Pierce. But, I guess if you want to do Bulwark, you can use Hold the Line and make that work. Otherwise, I prefer, was it Sergeant? Kind of whatever. You're looking at, like, maybe Stand Fast and Command to get combos down, but I'm going to focus on the one I want to talk about, which is Wanderer, so. Crush, Self-Heal, decent damage, good reach. Defender Guard is surprisingly a bit better than Taunt against Beastmen just because of how their targeting works. Bolster, always good to have. Hold the Line so you can get into position each time, but you don't have to use that necessarily. It's just for Rock Claws. And then, like I said, Bellow for that reason. You can also swap in Strategic Withdrawal. So if you ever wanted to, you know, be a mad lad and upgrade this, you know, if you ever find yourself getting hit really hard to Death's Door, you know, you don't have damage over time, or the dot puts you to Death's Door, at least you have a way off. And self-healing is really good in Kingdom, so I guess just to show what I'm talking about, like, I'm prioritizing stuns, combos, and potentially self-healing, and then any other, like, disruption, because you may not get to use your heal, you know, when you need it. So anyone else that can take care of themselves is good. Standfast is also good. Reason Standfast is good, it's not because of the taunt, it's just because of regenerating block. The Huntsmen like to knock off 2 tokens at a time with their super attack. I can't remember if crit takes 2 tokens as well, 2 positives, so they can really shred your tokens quickly, but being able to just generate 1 block a turn is pretty nice. So next, Hellion, Ravager, of course. Wanderer works okay. Berserker is actually not bad either. Carcass, you don't need something this slow. Yeah, I mean, you could still use it, but I think Ravager, just bonus HP, bonus damage, like, we're going to use it till it's not in the game anymore. I prefer this loadout. So we have Wicked Hack and Iron Swan. I ran both Wicked Hack and Howling End. You know, when you get Mastery and, you know, a cohesive final team for, like, the final push, Howling End is pretty good. But you'd be surprised how good Wicked Hack is, especially if you run, like, Bounty Hunter where Mark for Death applies combo and double vulnerable. Like, he'll go first, and then she just hits for, like, literally double damage right after. And really good. Otherwise, toe-to-toe, mostly for the winded clear, but breakthrough's also pretty good, just to get back up front, surprisingly. But I'm not going to tell you to run breakthrough. But otherwise, you have, like, Adrenaline Rush. You need to master this to get rid of Blight, as you can see here. And then Revelry is actually pretty interesting, especially because Mastered gives her DBR, so if something's just beating the hell out of you, at least you can give yourself a better chance to survive. A lot of these characters, if you haven't noticed, these are just plug and play. You don't really have to build too much around them, you just drop them in. And that's what ends up happening in Kingdoms. People travel around, you get unorthodox teams, you may just run them with like 2 militia, so you have to be able to make them work with little synergy at times. Wanderer Jester, standard loadout. You can swap Harvest for some other stuff if you want to, but I think these 4 are the core. So being able to combo consistently, later on you can dodge. Being able to blind consistently, later on you can dodge. Stress heal if you need it. I mean, if you're on defense, you may not even need stress heal. Like, if there's no stress on the defense team, you can actually swap this out for something. But I digress. Harvest, just to put some bleed down. Also Slice Off really good though, especially Master with the Vuln. And then Encore just to get extra action, shenanigans, stuff like that. Leper. You can run this as Wanderer. The only reason I'm picking Tempest is mainly for the debuff res. I mean, the rest of this isn't like great to look at, but the debuff res is okay. Yeah, so they actually don't have a ton of HP. Like they're all around like 30 something, like mid 30s or whatever, and the Shamans are like 41 late game, which is still a sizable amount, but like Leper with stuff like upgraded Chop, you know, really easy to scale up the damage and hit pretty hard. You know, one of his hits, like Unmastered Chop, like if you hit the midpoint, which is like, what, 11, 12, something like that? Like that's almost half their life in Escalation 1 and 2. In Escalation 1, it's going to be more because you get bonus damage, but in Escalation 2, I think they have like 26. You're getting pretty close to that, and then if you master it, obviously it's better. Bash, this is mostly just to get rid of blind while doing something. Like, hitting Reflection does not do you any justice in this fight. They don't blind you, sometimes the torch does, they don't combo you, they just hit you really hard. And so Bash is nice because you can actually throw out some offense while you're trying to blind or get rid of your blinds. If it hits, you might daze them, and then you can control them a bit better. Or if you have another daze, or if they daze themselves coming off of Enrage or Berserk, then you can stun them after that. This also combos later. Combo's good. Salem. Self-healing is good. Withstand. Leper's resists aren't that great, but and the taunt isn't that great, but it's regenerating block, it's regenerating defense, and sometimes you might resist something, and that's cool. You know, especially like the Rock Claws, they do bleed and blight and one attack, so you can shrug off any of that, you're doing okay. And then finally Intimidate. This is another flex spot. I shouldn't even say a flex spot, honestly. I don't know what you would run here out of these. Like, I don't see a move that's better than these 5, because I already talked about Reflection. Purge, the corpse interaction doesn't matter too much, although you do combo, so maybe Purge. Revenge, you don't want to vuln yourself, you know, unless you can actually deal with it, but I guess Revenge might be okay. Mastered, not baseline. Q, you know, it's better usually to focus fire in Darkest Dungeon, but if you set up a big Q, maybe. Ruin, I don't know, the fights don't last long enough to get like big ruin value. And then Break, they don't get blocks, so you don't need Break. As I said, I picked Tempest. You lose HP and speed, which is dangerous, but you get debuff res. Not just for your blinds, it's for all the weakens the Huntsmen throw out, so you might, you know, shrug off a couple. Monarch, I said, is unplayable. I don't know why I'm going back to that. I just think it's hilarious that it's like a cosmic path and there's no cosmic enemies to worry about. And I mean, Poet's whatever. I think Water is actually the best here, but like I said, Temp is also pretty good. Occultist. I think you should pick one of the paths. Warlock is really good. Hopefully you have someone that can guard, because it is kind of scary having base 25 HP. And, you know, if there's fatigue or whatever, like, it's pretty dangerous. And the 25 HP, this is a one-shot range, like, mid-game, because the Rotclaws and the Huntsman are able to hit very hard on crits especially, and they hit multiple targets on their powered up attacks. So he can literally get sent from full to death's door by one of these hits, and that is very scary. So you have to make sure he's protected. And if you're gonna run what is it, Warlock, then probably swap stuff around, like no curses maybe, or at least maybe Vuln Hex you'll keep, but then, like, you know, stars if you want to. But I'm talking about Ritualist. So with Ritualist, a little bit safer. You do Vuln yourself every couple turns, which is not okay. So it still has its own drawbacks, but you still get like the backline cleave damage, which is usually just good against any Beastmen comp. Don't want to really cleave down on Tribewalkers early, but it's there. Weakening Curse, you get bonus combo, or you get an extra combo, and then, you know, you can weaken them because they get strength, and so you can actually kind of counteract that. Like, the weaken effect isn't, again, just like how it works with additive properties, it's not the strongest token, like mid-late game, but it does get rid of their strength tokens, and that's good. Plus you get the combo, and then obviously you can buff yourself because you're Ritualist. Vuln Hex, the vulnerable is really good. Sometimes you get block off of Rotclaws, but really this is just a 2 Vuln hit. It was actually not as great, but still okay. Binding Shadows just for some damage and reach. This is a flex spot. And then Weird, just because if you're going to use this move on this character, at least buff it so it has a slightly better chance to not screw you. Fatigue, lowering your HP, enemies that hit really hard, means that if you bleed your teammates for 9 damage over a couple turns, like, you don't really get any HP out of that. So upgrade it, of course, and then just do your best to make them count. Also, something nice though, if you have the double unchecked power, you can cleave and stun the backline, but you can use Demon's Pull too if you want to do that. So Master version, yeah, only hits the back 2 still, so you get the combo, and this is actually a pretty good move too, so maybe this instead. I don't know. Yeah, those are all okay. Cultist, still pretty good for like the debuffs, but really not a guy you want to rely on healing. Like, you never do, but Kingdoms kind of makes it more noticeable. Runaway, my opinion, one of the best characters in Kingdoms. You can run Orphan and Wanderer even. Like, they're all okay. Arsonist, I just prefer to have accuracy, aka resistance penetration, and Orphan also cuts your max HP. So, that's not the funnest. Anyway, the core moves for most Runaway paths are going to be these top 4. So Firefly for damage, Smokescreen for combo, Vuln, Blind, all things we want, right? Blind makes them skip Berserk turns, combo sets everyone else up for stuns, and Vulnerable helps you get damage through Berserk. Cauterize, they do bleed, especially, or the Rotclaws bleed, so at least you can deal with that. Run and Hide, Mastered is actually pretty good. She can get rid of those big blight stacks from the shamans, and going into stealth helps to keep her safe from just every other attack, and it removes dots, which is really helpful. This slot is a flex pick. I just put Firestarter because maybe it'll do something, but otherwise there's really just nothing else to run here. Like if she's in rank 3, you can run Control Burn if yeah, like if she gets stuck up front, you can Dragonfly. Like you can do Arsonist Dragonfly. That's still not a bad thing to do. So if you want to like stick her up front and then like turn 1 Dragonfly, turn 2 Dragonfly, and then turn 3 start chucking Firefly, that's okay too. If you run Orphan, the reason I'm not like a huge fan of Orphan besides the HP is like one of Orphan's main tools, especially Survivor 2, is Ransack. Like if you run the front rank Orphan and what is it? Tribewalkers get enraged when they get moved, so you don't want to be moving people as your primary source of damage. That's why I pick Arsonist. Vestal. Really, any path works for Vestal. I think Confessor is slightly above the rest, though, just because of the debuffs and the stun potential on 3 Conviction. So, other stuff to have, Ministrations. Like I said, they do Bleed and Blight. And they can even stun you. So being able to, get all that gone is nice. Consecration of Light really helps you burst them down because that's just how you kind of want to do it against Beastmen. You want to burst someone down early and then like try and stagger their actions so they're not all enraged and hitting you at the same time. And Consec of Light helps you do that. Mantra. They throw out so many negative tokens by weakening you that, in the occasional stun, that Mantra will usually find targets. So it's a good heal to have here. And Mastered, you're not going to need to remove 3 negatives, but like, it's still fine. I don't think I'd master this just looking at it, because you're only mastering it for 5% heal. You're not going to have 3 negatives, or it's going to be very rare. So just leave it at base. And then Divine Grace, still never bad as like an emergency heal. I don't recommend Comfort just because it gets smothered by damage over time, but I mean, it can still work, right? Sanctuary is another good one just to guard friends, because Taunt's not as effective as Guard, as I've said. But yeah. You can run Chaplain and almost run something like this. You can't run Grace, obviously, but you can run Mace Bash and No Judgments. Like, if you wanted to use Chaplain, it would probably look like this. Or you have to slip in a Guard somehow. Like, you can drop Consec, maybe? I don't know. But yeah. Did you have access to Bounty Hunter and Man-at-Arms, for this Chaplain mantra on Mastery? You can actually spread this around to 3 people pretty easily. Flagellant's a weird one in Kingdoms because, like, Blight's not the best source of damage. And he's a Blight character, and having Toxic, where he has more Blight, is... like, any extra damage is cool, but it might not even go through. With that said, he's still pretty good in terms of healing other people. So you can run pretty much anything that's not Exanimate and do okay. But I'm going to pick Scourge just because, the good Deathless, and then also in case... Actually, hold up. Let me look. Maybe I don't run Scourge. I don't know. You can run... I'm going to use Scourge for this example, but... yeah, so you get the good Deathless, you get Undying, you still have more and more, and... Suffer is a surprising one. Yeah, normally I'm not a huge fan of Suffer, especially on this path. Like, Suffer and Lash feel kind of half-baked. But there's so much damage over time coming out of these enemies, and if you're working with Militia, who don't have Deathblow resist and have no death armor, meaning if they go past 0, they're gone, being able to protect them by removing damage over time is really good. Plus, it gives you DBR, which is a myth, but at least it makes you feel better. So, Suffer... okay. Otherwise, as I said, Punish, like, you're throwing combo out all the time. The on-hit damage is okay. You might stick a Blight, especially if they have combo. Deathless just for the really powerful heal, more and more because busted ability. Undying, because any extra source of healing with how much damage comes out of these enemies is welcome. You can run Wanderer and change some stuff up, like put Lash's Gift instead of Suffer, and you can swap out Undying if you really want to. But the reason I like the other paths is because Deathless is usable from anywhere instead of Scourge, where it's only usable up front. Both are good. The main things you're looking at are pretty much Deathless, Undying, and more. The rest is whatever you just want to slide in there, but Scourge is still really good because it keeps multiple people alive, him and someone else. Might want to check using more in that situation, because you don't want to, get the pain token healing and then you can't use Deathless, which is kind of scary. But anyway, this is what I'm looking at for flag. I'll move this back. Duelist. There are a couple things with Duelist. You can run Wanderer, if you really want to. Probably swap up some stuff and just have, like, good damage on some reach, stance flipping, meditates. You can run Flesh and disengage to get rid of their riposte. But I'm going to suggest Antagonist, just because she doesn't move herself, so it's a little easier to slaughter into teams. And she applies debuffs all the time, so if she's an aggressive, she throws out Vuln. If she's in defensive, she weakens. Both those are really good. And you have Feint to swap stances, otherwise the riposte isn't anything to write home about. Disengage on Antagonist is actually pretty cool, so when it's even unmastered, right, you get dodge, you get rid of riposte, and if you're in aggressive, you combo them, which is really nice. In defensive, if they happen to be combo for something, you double blind them, which is also pretty good. Also, I just realized that compared to Smokescreen, this feels very lackluster, because Smokescreen has the ability to not use combo. It generates combo, gives 2 blinds, and a Vuln. Whereas Sahara has to be in a stance, they have to be comboed, and it has to be Thursday. Yeah, Disengage is pretty cool. You still get the combo and dodge and the riposte denial, and it's not like the other one with Wanderer where you pull them disengaging so you don't trigger walkers to get more enraged. As I said, meditation, just good for dodge tanking. Don't really want the riposte. The taunt doesn't mean too much, but like it's, master is just, it's 3 on-demand dodge plus, and that's still good. And it's a stance. Coup de grace with Antagonist, if you're in defensive, it stuns, and if you're an aggressive, you double weak, double vuln them, which is really cool. So something that's very easy to do, turn 1, meditate, get into defensive, turn 2, if anyone has Enrage coming, or if they're Berserk or whatever, just pop them with this, or do it next turn, The tricky part with Antagonist is flipping your stance back to, like, aggressive, because, we have something that dumps token, like the stance token. We have 2 ways to get into defensive, and then we have Feint, which isn't the best thing to flip with. So, it's a little tricky to do. Like, you can still put in Flesh if you want to, and work it that way, but there's no bonus to it in Antagonist, so don't really need to. You can also run the Boots, because the Boot stuns on combo, and we like stuns against Beastmen. Something else worth using is actually Instructress, because of, again, so there might be some stress floating around, and extra turns can help you pick up kills or save lives if you really need to, so that's a really good move. And then Ruthless Instruction is pretty good, and if you're on someone like Abomination, or Abomination's on the team stressing everyone out, then, you can throw these buffs everywhere, and that's cool. But I think Intrepid's the easiest, most likely, and the simplest. Like, you don't have to worry about moving. You can just, pump out your debuffs, get your stuns, all that. Crusader. Of course it's Banneret. I don't even think it's close. Honestly, like, Wanderer is just a downgrade. Templar, Guard's okay. And his little capstone thing, in terms of his bonus stats, is he gets bonus damage while regenerating, which Templar can get regeneration, I know, from Bulwark and Radiance, but these aren't exclusive. So, you know, at least you get bonus damage with that in mind. And otherwise, Aggressor, they don't have death armor, so you don't need the execute, although they are susceptible to burn. At least you get a little bit more more damage. I believe, what is it? Smite has the +1, yeah, on the max damage. So, and it doesn't take combo in order to, you know, just attack. Whereas basic Smite takes combo, and it might eat up combo from someone else. Plus, if there's combo, you probably want to hit Stunning Blow. So for this reason, I'm picking Banner right here. So we have Smite just for general damage and use, Stunning Blow if there's a combo just to knock him out of Berserk. Bulwark of Faith, the taunt, not great. The block itself, not even like the best thing. But you get that regeneration. And everywhere else in like normal gameplay, it's still pretty good. And we have a really strong battle heal that we can use from anywhere. So if a Rock Claw catapults us to the back, you have it. And then Inspiring Cry just to have it. Finally, Bigby. You can run a lot of these paths with success. I had Unchained on my last one, and it was doing okay. It's just Backlash needs that Blight to stick, and the Beast Pile's kind of, honestly, it's kind of whack against them. Fiend would be better. Moribund really wants Instructress. And it can still work this way, but I'd say Wanderer or Fiend are your best ones. And since, you know, you can pick almost all of his skills except for one on each side, I don't really need to change too much in terms of the build. So I'm just looking at Wanderer just because overall it's just consistent and the basic tools it has is really good. Manacles, combos, and remove strength on upgrade. Really good. Backlash gives him block, blocks a good token against Beastmen, and it stuns on combo. Both of these move people, so you have to be careful about Tribewalkers. Beast Pile doesn't really do much. Corpse Clear isn't that important. Iker. You want to stick a Blight through combo, this is an option. However, what I really underestimated with upgraded Iker is that when you hit a combo target, you get the resist penetration, but then also it splashes the combo onto the adjacent enemies. So one combo that you use becomes two potentially on different units. So that's really efficient. So like you can hit something like rank 2 or 3, you know, blight them, spread the combo, and then person up front can also stun the other dude up front too. So really helpful there. Absolution just to tank everything, really good move. If you do transform, Rake's fine. Cleave down the front line, pretty good. Rage, really good if they give themselves Vuln after Berserk, or if you're using Mark for Death, Vuln Hex, then you have access to this. It's a lot of good damage. Slam, just if you get moved around. They don't block much outside of Rock Claw, like I keep saying, so they don't need Maul. Maybe you can probably put on mid-game if you want to, instead of Slam, if you're not having that issue. But Instinct is also really good on Wanderer here, so. It does pull, again, you gotta be careful about that, but double Vuln, remove Riposte, apply on crit daze, and then upgraded, apply on crit stun. So if you just happen to score a crit, you hit the 10%, or if you got like other bonuses or a token or whatever, then you get a stun. And that's really good at slowing him down. If you're gonna run Fiend, then you can probably like swap out of Slam, just have Maul as an option, but otherwise it kind of looks like this, right? So don't need to shuffle them. This isn't like the best move. Actually, I don't even know if you use this, but I'm digressing. So that's it. Let me know what you're thinking. Like I said, these are just my suggestions, so hopefully they work for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.